Hello, and welcome to the Libri Labra Book Club. I am joined this week by my husband, John, aka BookTube Hubby, and also by Book Club VIP member, Tom. And before we jump into all the things, I just want to let you guys know if you ever want to participate on screen in the discussion, you can do that by becoming a patron on patreon.com/Libri Labra. And there's a few different perks for becoming a patron. You get to see like behind the scenes footage and photos and help me pick which books to read. Also, you can become a Book Club VIP member and be part of our exclusive Facebook chat where we talk about all the media that we're consuming. And you also get to help select the books that the book club picks in a rotation. But for the month of October, we're super late. We read If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And we're going to talk about it just a little bit in like very general terms, and then we're eventually going to jump into spoilers. So if you haven't read it, go read it, come back and watch this later. But let's start with the fact that this was your pick.
Yay!
So
I was going to put it down. That means I'm very unprepared for this discussion because the discussions are in the book.
So
okay.
You probably don't even know why you picked it, do you?
Correct. I picked 3 random books and we just ran with it, I think, right? I mean, that's generally how I do it. I don't look at...
I remember having a discussion with you because
synopses.
It was October and we were talking about thrillers, and I may have like mentioned something.
So maybe I did pick a theme for the... But
did.
I don't remember what... All I remember is reading this book. The other 2 books no longer exist until we bring them back up again. Okay.
So it was a thriller. It was October. That's how we ended up here.
Okay.
Right.
It was a good pick. I enjoyed this one. And as much of the Shakespearean lore I do not know, I did enjoy this one. This was a little bit easier to take in than other books that have been centered around the Shakespearean actors and stuff like that I've taken in the past. Normally it's like I don't even know what they're saying right now, but this was actually palatable for those who don't like delve into Shakespearean literature very much.
What are your initial thoughts, Tom?
Well, like John, I try to not read anything about the books before I start them, but I think I messaged you guys when I started reading the book that it's like, if you recall from Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, they make this game about Shakespearean Middle Age, the Shakespearean theater world. I say, oh my God, this is this game writ large, because that's essentially what it is. It's a murder mystery.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that.
And I enjoyed that we read it in that order too.
Yeah. It's also funny because I don't know if you guys have heard of it, the game Pentiment.
No.
It's a dialogue-based narrative game with like the graphics are from the Middle Ages. It's basically like talking to people and moving the story along that way. There may be some point and click in it too, but it's like all the rage now. So it's like games apparently like this can make it. So it's like on Game Pass if you have Game Pass.
Oh no, I've noticed that a lot of the indie devs are actually bringing back a lot of the not the old games, but the types, like the genre, like how they were built, and they're reskinning them to and adding features that we didn't have back then. So they're doing great with the nostalgia.
But to the book though, my initial impression, which lessened as going through the book, but like in any movie when like a guy like oh, I've got this script, or I've got this book, and it's about a plumber who saves the day, and I'm a plumber, and it's like I thought that this is like it's self-referential, like too self-referential, but it kind of because I guess she was an actress herself in that sort of a drama school.
Oh, the author?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my initial thoughts.
I did not know what to expect. I knew it was a thriller about a bunch of friends and someone dies, and then it's figuring out who done it. But I had no idea that it was going to be so heavy. It was pretty much like an homage to Shakespeare, really. And I had no idea that like the theater aspect was going to be as heavy as it was also. And I kind of really appreciated both of those things because I don't read too much in those worlds in that way. And I just feel like she did a great job with her world building, being that this was like a specific Shakespearean theater school. Like, I don't know, I just thought that was pretty cool. It was kind of novel, I think. And I think she, you know, just did a
But they exist.
I did not know that.
Okay.
There you go.
But like, I still thought it was really awesome.
Yeah.
And I liked it. It made me wish that I knew more about Shakespeare, but I thought that was
you can look at the plays
anytime. Yeah.
I have a one of our players at SAC is a Shakespearean teacher. Like he teaches Shakespearean
Did you tell him about
acting.
the book?
Yes, I did. In Rollins College. So I'm happy to chat with him sometimes, and it's fun because he's from New Zealand and he has a very fun accent to go with all of his teachings.
I also thought the format was interesting in regards to how the story was being told, kind of back and forth between like the present and the flashbacks, and it felt very cinematic to me. Like I could definitely see it becoming a movie, and I hope it does. And so I guess those were my initial thoughts. And we will now jump into spoiler territory. So again, if you haven't read it, definitely worth a read. If you absolutely hate Shakespeare, you may struggle with it. Because I was looking at reviews and apparently everybody.
It's like jazz. Either you love it or you hate it.
So just be aware that there is a lot of Shakespeare references in it. So I can see how that would distract people that may not be into that. But
and you hit that block and you're like, I don't even know what he just said. Like, I can't even get past this. But I understood a lot of it. Thankfully.
All right.
The thing is about what I liked about it was that the Shakespearean actually each part played a specific role in what was going on outside of the act as well. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
Like they gave each other Shakespearean quotes back and forth. Almost. To me, is a lot of it's just straight insults, but they're like back and forth like friends, just like just a quick jab, and it's like, what? Oh, okay, sure. We'll move on from there. I'm like, what? That was rude as hell.
To me, for people who are so like in it, that seems very, very realistic to me that would happen. Like if you're so passionate about something and you're living and breathing it, like I think you're definitely going to start communicating it.
Oh yeah,
like
absolutely.
That. But I thought it was interesting that a lot of people just couldn't buy into that aspect of it. They were like, this is bullshit. But nobody would ever talk like that. Like, and so that was like a turn off for a lot of people.
Oh, come on.
But, yeah, but it gets to the point where it's almost like an emotional shorthand. It's like, you quote a particular Shakespearean thing. Okay, I get the emotion expressed, but they're not actually feeling the emotion.
But sometimes they were.
Sometimes they were, but it makes it easier not to. It's just like here. It's like we have our partner dance. You say this part, I say this part. And we don't actually.
Right. But how well it's done as how.
The closer athlete chosen. Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, but how much angry would it be if it was in their own words, or how much more emotional would it be in their own words? We don't know.
That's true.
I think that aspect of it kind of freaked me out. I'm someone who feels things very, very, very strongly, and I can't imagine feeling like double emotions all the time. Like from an actor's perspective, like that that was something that I had never stopped to think about. But occasionally it kind of freaked me out to think how people had to put themselves in specific mindsets to be able to act. But like the way it was explained in the book was just like, it just sounds so traumatizing. Like how could that not mess with your psyche?
You can also act too far. Like you can go in too far into a feeling or a state to where coming back out of it is actually rough. Like actually, someone actually said, like, "Hey, dude, you're okay? What's going on?" And then there's actually been reports of actors just breaking down and crying after a scene just because of how well they felt it going through it, and then having to reflect on it afterwards.
I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is like some of my dreams.
Well, that's a good way to do it, actually.
Just because I know that sometimes I wake up and the emotions that I felt in that dream was just so real, but the circumstances weren't. So it's very confusing to wake up to come out of that.
That is a great metaphor, analogy, both.
So there's a lot going on with these friendships. I don't even know where to start. I guess we should probably start with like, what was his name?
Oliver?
Rich?
Oh, Richard.
Richard, yes.
What about him?
I mean, he sounded like a dick, but did he deserve like what happened? Did he deserve to die?
I mean, that was the point. Like a lot of the point of all of their turmoil after the fact, all of everything, all of his anybody's like psychological hallucinations of seeing Richard or expecting his reaction to something, or everything that they went through after the fact, you know, like that was just all of it.
It's just like, I mean, you start off saying they're all friends. Like I could, well, first of all, why are you friends with such a jerk? But then also like, I don't know. I would never do that to a friend.
You have 7 people, and we come in on their 3rd year, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we come in on their 3rd year. We learn they've already been acting together for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semesters. That's like a cast or a crew of a TV show that's already 3 seasons in. So they got to work together and they got to do things together. They are considered professional. Like I'm pretty sure they're friends outside of it, but there's always somebody that's just not cool with the rest of the group.
Right.
That just does their own thing, or, you know, it's just. So, but then you have the brother, sister, camaraderie. You have relationships come out of it, and this is where we come in. Like halfway into they like Richard, but they don't like Richard. Like there's apparently a back and forth with that, and the fact that one of the castmates is his cousin, and they like her too, so they don't want to push him out without losing her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of different reasons why they would have to deal with Dick in the meantime.
Yeah, but the book made it seem that he didn't really get bad until they passed out the roles for, what was it, the Macbeth? Or was it?
Was it King Lear or was it Macbeth?
No, King Lear was after that. That was their
King Lear was the after one.
Yeah, because wasn't King Lear the one that they never do?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yes, and that was an example of the plays, the thing in which to catch the conscience of the king. But anyway,
right.
No, Richard didn't start getting ridiculous until they handed out the parts, and he wasn't like the lead or whatever. I can't remember what part they thought he would play.
They placed him as narcissistic, right?
Yeah.
So when he wasn't in center stage, he started being a dick, a bigger dick.
But he obviously had so much more going on, and I don't think it seemed like it was kind of painted as though it had a lot to do with his girlfriend, but
I believe so, because Meredith said that they were actually having issues before he started. Actually, that might have been. You might be right, Tom. That might have been coincides as to that. That's when she started being like, "Well, he's been really weird lately."
Yeah.
So she did bring that up, and that's why she raged. Did her thing with Oliver.
Like, I think I was convinced that it was going to be revealed at some point that he had some kind of drug abuse going on that was related to his change in behavior and stuff like that.
No. If am I wrong that Oliver and Meredith had more of a past, but she ended up dating Richard?
I don't recall that, if that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, but there were some instances where I was like, why is she so sweet on Oliver right now if she's with Richard? And I think maybe he's picked up on that, and he's been jealous that of Oliver this entire time.
But did I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, just that. Didn't he say at one point that he catches himself a reflection of himself, and it's like it looks kind. If you like squint hard enough, he looks like Richard.
Huh.
And then
no, there was
into place.
Well, I think there was one point that he said that after he had done something he didn't like, he said he saw Richard in himself. But I didn't think that that's what he meant.
No, I think it was a case where he meant it literally, like he kind of resembled Richard.
I didn't get that.
The only thing that I could ever I thought that was Richard's problem was the fact, because he said it loud and clear in the woods to James. This is, I wish with you and Oliver would leave my girls alone and just admit that you were queer for each other. Meaning his cousin and Meredith.
Right.
So I thought he was just being rage jealousy the whole time. And the fact that he's narcissistic, he wanted center stage. And if did Oliver get that part? Who got that part?
No, I
think they put one of the teachers in that place.
Yeah, James.
Oh, you're right. It was James. So maybe that was what his problem was. It was straight up James.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that like throughout the whole throughout the whole thing, like it's repeated over and over and over again how oblivious Oliver is to everything. So it seemed like everybody else just had so much more insight than Oliver did. So everybody could see that Oliver had a thing for James even before Oliver was really aware of it. And Meredith wanted Oliver, but she didn't know, like, how many times was she like...
James knew, Oliver didn't. Everybody else knew that James knew, but Oliver didn't. So everybody else knew that James wanted Oliver, and that somehow that maybe they might have ended up, but whatever. But when James ended up at Oliver's house over the summer, that's when I was like, And because he was like, but I wanted to go spend the time with Meredith, but James showed up, and I didn't. And again, oblivious as hell, not understanding that's why James came to him.
Right, because then he called Meredith, and he was like, "I'm so sorry, James showed up."
And then she
was like,
threw
"Of course
it at him.
He did."
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, of course he did. I didn't catch that part either. She's like, damn it, he did it again.
I think the first time I started having questions was after Oliver and Meredith had gotten together, and then he went to the bathroom and James was naked in the bathroom, and his internal dialogue was something like, I had seen James naked plenty of times. You explained it as them being in a theater group and costume changes and stuff like that, and I was like, is that what he meant though? Like,
or James wanting to see him naked. I don't know. Apparently it's happened.
So, but the way he was thinking about it made me like start to question what was going on there. So it's funny because, I was talking about how memorable the characters were, and that there was one that I always kept forgetting.
Can you guess who that was?
And so it was Philippa. And
okay.
and I literally said, what has Philippa done? Like, I don't remember. I always forget her. Every time I count them out and I say the names, I always forget her. And I even did it as I was talking about how I forget them. I said all the names again, and John was like, "Philippa, you're missing Philippa," and I was like, "Oh."
Well, the cast does that too. That's her position in the story. So nobody ever thinks about her. Yeah.
That's why she gets away as being the one that helped everything out in the background, and then without. See, I mean, it's quiet once. Are we okay with the discussions we got going on? Because this is actually nice. I have to worry about this.
I gave him the questions because I was like, I have brain fog. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to hold the conversation. So here's the discussion questions if you want them.
So a lot of this explains why Richard was so ragey to James in the boathouse, and why we ended up in this mess. And I knew from the first scene when they were like, "Oh God, what do we do? What do we do?" Who had done it, and that's sad in my part because I was like, "Oh."
You knew it was going to be James?
I knew exactly who it was. The first scene, as soon as he flipped out over, I was like, "Oh, that's who did it." Because he was already stressed about it, and everybody else is like, "What's going on? What's going on?" He's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's still alive. What do we, guys? Fucking save him, and I'm all right. But they let him die, and then that's why we went all through this whole thing. That poor James. Poor James.
I just can't even imagine. First of all, trying to
And Oliver, being the oblivious one, should have also been the one to figure it out too. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
But just I can't imagine anyone being like, I'm totally going to get away with this crime, but then having 5 other observers and being like, okay, we all have to keep the secret to get away with this crime.
No.
Why would you trust? I don't know.
You can't trust everybody, and somehow it worked, but no, not really.
But that was Ren's cousin. How?
I don't even remember what her reaction was. What happened? Tom, do you remember?
They got her buy-in before they actually did it.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't even remember what she said though, or did she just I don't know. Did she have a physical response? Did she actually say he deserves it? I don't remember her response to this.
I think it was more resignation than anything else.
Right.
For everything he's done to everybody. This is fine. Not that it's his just desserts, but
right.
I guess she went with the will of the people, I guess.
See, they were in a position to where either they let him, or he's just going to continue doing what he's been doing.
That's the other thing.
That's what they were thinking, right?
With Ren, he also threw Ren across the yard.
Yeah,
that
was part of why James was in the position he was.
Right.
Ren tried to stop him from and he threw her off of him.
Yeah.
God, I can't get to a point in my head where I can justify murder. I just can't. I can't.
It was self-defense, really.
I mean.
Well, no, it wasn't.
I get it, but
when it started, it was, yes, but
it
became something else. When that clock started ticking, it became something else.
Every single cartoon or movie ever where there's the hero and the villain fighting and the villain falls off a cliff and is hanging on for dear life and the hero's
sorry, buddy.
I can't. No, the hero never does that. The hero brings him back up. And I just feel like that would be me. Seeing Richard in the water drowning and still alive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, letting somebody die is very different than
I can't
fighting.
even imagine just taking the time out to have this conversation. Should we just let him go?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
getting hit in the head with a boat hook wasn't enough. Do you think that would slow anybody down, or do you think it would make somebody worse?
I don't know.
especially a big, strong dude who's a narcissist who thinks he can control everything.
I mean, I get that, like, the way he was behaving, he had people not just annoyed or upset, or like they were like legit fearing for their lives, because he had held, I think it was that summer that he had held James underwater.
Exactly why James was scared as he was, because he couldn't make he thought that Richard would kill him.
Which is what made it self-defense when it
Right.
started.
Right. But after smacking him, getting him off him, stopping him, and then just letting him sit in the water and drown, that's a different story.
Yes.
Ugh. Ugh. But that's also after finding him, hours later? What happened in the meantime? We still have that hole.
Well,
what
Oliver
happened to Richard in the meantime? Everybody
Oliver
else
was with Meredith during that time. So that takes care of two people while all that was happening, because it was after that James ran back, got undressed, and ended up bumping into Oliver in the bathroom after all of that.
But I'm saying, how long was Richard laying in the muck, or was he actually just laying there for that amount of time, like the entire time? Or did he wander around looking for somebody? Or
God,
that's upsetting.
I like all the things that I want to bring up are so far to the end that I don't want to jump all the way over.
I mean, we've
yet.
already spoiled everything. So go ahead.
Well, first of all, obviously, with it being Shakespeare, it had to be a goddamn tragedy.
I mean, yes.
But I'm still upset that it was. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I got to the end, I was like, seriously? Like,
I mean, I appreciate this.
Yeah, but is it really though?
For who? For
it
whom?
was.
Because what happened to James was a tragedy.
No, yeah, but do you not remember the end? It was kind of open-ended. It was like some Inception bullshit.
All you need to know is the trophy. If you don't have a body, they're likely not dead. They go from there.
Yeah, but it wasn't
right.
that. It was that James had left him a note with the soliloquy from what was it? From
I don't remember.
Pericles?
Pericles?
Yeah, Pericles.
Is it from Pericles?
I thought.
Yeah, it makes an obscure reference.
It was an obscure reference, but
they explain it.
Yeah, they explain it that like it was Pericles before he had reached out for help.
Right.
So
and
like,
what would he have said if he reached out for help, and then he says, "Oh, James is still alive."
And he searched and he searched and he searched newspaper clippings.
Yeah,
and he couldn't find anything about his body.
Right.
So it seemed like it was almost. It felt like it was a message from James, like an invitation to go find him.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I
I'm
guess
not dead.
Opens it for.
It says he's not dead.
That's cute.
Cute? Like, what? I mean, I guess it leaves it open for a part 2.
Right. That's why I said.
Oh God, I hope not. No, because I
said it was cute though.
At the end, it was just like, Jesus, this is the definition. Much ado about nothing. So you two could have been doing the horizontal mambo the entirety of this novel, but this is what we're left with, you know. And it's, I don't know, the ending just felt dissatisfying to me.
It did feel, and that's why I said it was so tragic. Like to have him in jail, first of all, for a crime he didn't commit for however many years, with the only thing keeping him going was to see James again, and then like,
and then after almost the entire book, oh, do you think I'm homosexual? It's like, you know. Again, much ado about nothing in that regard.
How about we just say bye? He just couldn't.
I mean, he could have been bi.
That's what I'm saying, but he couldn't figure that out either.
Yeah.
All right.
Are these formal discussion questions?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm
Did
looking
you
at it.
skip into the
figure-
ninth one?
Well, the other ones we already kind of covered, sort of. Unless you want to go through more.
Well, I
Hang
thought
on.
the first one was interesting.
Okay, the first one had to do with Coburn. All right, so we did. Okay, in the very first scene, Oliver says, "We did wicked things, but they were necessary too," or so it seemed. Looking back years later, I'm not so sure they were, and now I wonder, could I explain it all to Coburn? Having finished the story, which of the wicked things do you think were necessary or inevitable? Which were not? And what in the last 10 years might have caused Oliver to change his mind?
Some are, well, if it didn't happen, you wouldn't have a story.
Right.
Well,
A novel. So, like, what happened to Richard at the docks? But
well,
I kind of feel they had, everything that happened with Richard with this particular friend group. I feel like the way Richard was heading, he was going to collide into something at some point. Because he was behaving as if nobody's boundaries mattered. Nothing mattered. Like, he was eventually going to come up against something.
I mean, it seemed like he was pretty sociopathic about it, though, too, because he was hurting them in the plays, not outside of the plays.
And these are people he supposedly cares about that are his friends. So, like,
Right.
Imagine somebody he really doesn't like, so had they not done what they did, who knows, Richard would have been, like, murdering somebody.
He would have murdered somebody else and been in jail.
Right.
Or murdered James.
I'm trying to think, like, I don't know why, but I have trouble thinking of what other wicked things they did other than just keeping that a secret.
Sleeping with Meredith, knowing it was going to piss Richard off.
That's a tough one, though.
Hiding, letting Richard dive with everybody else.
I feel like Oliver kept being named as, like, the really good guy.
Yeah, that's why he went to jail for somebody.
Ugh.
Save his love, I guess.
So that was kind of a wicked thing to do. It was a lie. It was a big.
But
big
if he's doing it for love, I mean, who knows?
What are you doing? You know why.
Why is that funny?
I don't know.
I don't see why
Because they never actually ever said it, but they apparently we're supposed to take it as granted.
Yeah.
Does that work as an explanation as why that was funny? The irony?
I mean, I don't think you have to say the word love to express love.
Nope.
And I mean, what grander gesture than going to jail for someone?
That's true, but it's something different to say, "Oh yeah, we're married." It's another thing to have a legal document for it. You know what I mean? It's a different sort of commitment. Not to say you're less committed in one or the other, but one says, "Okay, I'm ready to sign put my name on a paper that says we are together," sort of a thing.
Remind me if you remember, because didn't Meredith bring Colborne to the show? Right? Like, what was it? What role did she have in that? Was James going to confess? Like, what was the plan there?
I don't remember. Because she was upset that Oliver did what he did.
Right, because she wasn't expecting that to happen.
But how did she figure out who it was? because I remember she had brought Colborne into because she was upset about what the reason or why.
Or had she just found out what James did?
I thought so. I thought she was bringing Colborne to arrest James.
Yes.
That's interesting. Interesting. And then when
maybe she didn't know because she was with Oliver when everything happened, and Oliver didn't know that James had done it until he found the hook.
Right.
Which was like right before the show.
But what was it that oh shit.
So I don't remember how she had found out, but I think she had just found out.
Well,
maybe Philippa.
When it was just letting him dive when they thought that he had just fallen was one thing, but learning that someone had hit him was another. So she was like, "Oh, someone killed my boyfriend."
And she's also taking Oliver's prospective lover off the board.
Yeah,
that way. So it's two birds with one stone in a way.
Yeah, and then Oliver did what he did and ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, it me. Nope. Are you sure about that? No, it me.
Yeah. Yeah, because then she was alone because Oliver was in jail.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the tragedy? You said I don't see the tragedy, but there's a lot.
What do you mean I don't see the tragedy?
I'm saying earlier you were like, of course there was.
That's not what I said. It said, what wicked decisions did they make?
Not that. You said earlier. I'm sorry. Because we were like, of course it has tragedy in it, but why was it? No.
One of the first things I said was this whole thing was super tragic, and it makes sense because it's Shakespeare.
Yeah, but I thought you said something along the lines as because it was so obvious a tragedy, but where was the rest of it? Like, where was the other tragedies? But never mind. I'm sorry.
It wasn't tragedy. It was their wicked decisions. I
know what you're referring to now.
But that's the point of a tragedy is the hero, quote unquote, of a tragedy falls by his hubris or his fault. And that's exactly how Richard fell because of his flaws.
Damn, so everybody actually goes down because of this for different reasons.
Yeah.
What did you think of the writing in general? Like the prose, I guess.
Well, it kept me entertained and kept me interested. I'll say that. But on the other side, it's like, oh, here's an easy crib of Shakespeare that goes on for a paragraph. Pad that out, sort of a thing. So that was my reaction.
It sucks that like I don't have enough of a foundation in Shakespeare to know like where each thing applied, because I know that like different scenes reflected different circumstances that were going on in like different Shakespeare things, but I guess the only one that I'm familiar with is like what was happening in like Romeo and Juliet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like when you're reading the comic books and they like, oh, this was set in issue 8 and we're on issue 12 now, issue 15. It's like, well, that's nice. So.
It made me want to actually consume more Shakespearean lore for a little while.
Yeah, probably until
I got into I started reading some and I was like,
without any like dilution of English. Yeah.
And so there was a thing in the back of I think it said something about this is what I used to help me go through a lot of this. This was my number one book my go-to for Shakespearean lore. So I was thinking of going and looking up that book. Is it in there? Or?
I'm just reflecting.
It was the back of the audio book that said it.
That the number 8 question here says, Oliver tells Colborne, people always forget about Philippa and later they wish they hadn't.
That's what I mean.
Do you think this is why she's so easily overlooked and what makes her so indispensable? And I just I know, but like I really hadn't realized reading the book that it wasn't just my flaw in forgetting her. Like I didn't realize
Right.
that was intentional the
Right.
whole
Yep.
entire time,
Right.
which I guess makes for good writing.
I
if
agree.
Functioning as intended.
I think she was forgettable because she barely spoke in scenes and she was just always in the background. She was
Correct.
always just like
Intended.
more like a silent observer.
Also
Until-
Greek chorus, if you will. But she doesn't really say anything either, so until the end.
What was the circumstances for her coming to visit Oliver at the end? Like, why was it her? I mean, obviously she had something she wanted to convey, but because he said James had visited him for the first 6 years and then stopped.
Yeah.
And then I think he said, did Meredith ever come see him?
No.
I don't
Okay.
think so. Or she did it maybe once and that's it.
Okay. And so why was he being released? Because 10 years,
That was his.
that seems like a very short sentence for a murder charge.
On good behavior.
Well, it would be a manslaughter charge, wouldn't it? Because it wasn't intentional. It was just.
Right. It wasn't
Did he
premeditated
still-
murder. It wasn't
Oh,
something that
okay.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was still.
A capital crime, but of a lesser duration, I guess, for punishment.
The hell was he doing for 10 years?
Whew,
Oliver.
working out and reading.
Yeah. Well, to that end, I know I mentioned this to you guys before, but on This American Life, there's one of the segments I did was how one of the prisons, I don't remember which one it is, they do like an act of Shakespeare every so often. And they actually got up to the last act of Hamlet. And it's like how Hamlet falls differently with that population than it does.
I do remember that.
Yeah, it was so good.
I do remember
And it's
that.
like, it just shows you like, oh my God, you never think about these things unless, but it was really, really
Because
good.
Hamlet was actually played by actual murderers, so they
Yes.
knew how to play the characters versus
Yes.
actors who'd never actually murdered somebody, who
before,
felt
yeah.
that regret, who felt
Yeah.
that actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's scary actually. So we do have to start seeing some Shakespeare.
I would suggest Kenneth Branagh's films. They're quite good. Much Ado About Nothing being one of my favorites. It's a comedy, so you can start there. But he did the full on Hamlet, which is like 4 hours, but it's so good. I mean, you'll have to do it in 2 nights, but it's such a good. And there was one, I wish I could find it now. It was all African American cast. I think it was Much Ado About Nothing or one of the other comedies. I only got to saw like a brief scene. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I can't find it now. So those are my suggestions that are easily available.
I had started collecting the No Fear Shakespeare books because I thought they were pretty cool that it has like the Shakespearean writing and then like the English translation on the opposite page.
Yes.
I like that too. Might have to look into some of those.
And it's the kind of thing where, I mean, that's where reading play is, it's one thing, but it's not quite another to see it actually acted out. So, and, that's why, Hamlet says, that the play is the thing which catches the conscience of the king. He basically creates a play that plays out the way Claudius murders his father, his brother, Claudius's brother, actually. And it's like, what do you think of that? And of course, it gets the expected reaction. It's like, that's what good theater does. One of the things I liked about the book here is that they had such a great response to like Macbeth on the lakeside. Even though they did like only certain scenes of it. So, but like all the other let's say artists, because the visual artists and everybody else, they were all gathered there and like, oh, this is great. And so just to imagine what live theater can do, So yep.
Sorry, working around like other actors, like just then seeing the things that they do, actually putting that in a theatrical, like the Greatest Showman type scene, like that's just I can't imagine how much work it goes into some of that stuff, and just seeing some of those actually come alive, that does bring the goosebumps for me anyway.
And that's what, and we mentioned it before. It's like, when you have to call such intense emotions up at the drop of a hat, how do you let them go once you've started that train rolling? And what kind of person does it take to do that on the regular?
Over and over again, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, it is acting, but it's not spoken. The most intense part of that I can think of is the ballerinas who every year got to gear for their month of the Nutcracker. Even though that's where they make their money. It's like, God, how do you do that night after night after night after night and make it look like it's new? So
practice.
Yes, that's what being a professional is. And they're probably thinking about, oh, what should I eat when I get home, sort of a thing. But on stage,
No, they don't think about what they got. It's already pre-planned,
Pre-planned,
preset.
Sure
they get home.
Yeah. So, what am I going to do when I give this book anyway? Oh, okay.
Think it's it.
I don't know.
We got more.
I guess we can.
Closing statements, or do you want to dig deeper?
Let me see. Let me look at the questions.
Oh, you want to look at the questions?
Yeah.
We don't trust you with them.
Yeah, I skipped too many.
Yeah.
Yet she jumped to 8, and we were like, we covered it.
Okay, it says Oliver repeatedly identifies himself as a bystander, a secondary character, or an interloper. How does his role as an observer affect the role as storyteller? On page 102, he says, I was quiet, motionless, in my own estimation pointless, a fuse with no fire and nothing to ignite. Is he really just a pawn between James and Richard, or is he more integral to the conflict from the outset?
Oh, I think James has a... No, that was actually a perfect grasp of the situation. Did they actually asked the question and then laid out what he had specified when they had all walked away, that there was that you absolutely need 3 parts to every explosion: the fuse, the bomb, and the fire. So the fact that he said that he was the fuse, which is basically just that actually absolutely is an integral part into making that that problem happen.
Yep. The catalyst.
So you have the dangerous one, the bomb, and then the fire with that's all the hot and lively one, James, right? And then Oliver said he was the fuse.
Yeah. Standing
in the middle, really can't do anything without one or the other.
But the 3 of them together.
The next question says, a line from Pericles, murders as near to lust as flame to smoke, is quoted twice in the story and in Act, is that 4?
Yes.
Okay. Oliver observes that in his subconscious mind, violence and intimacy have become somehow interchangeable. How are love, sex, and violence connected in the story? Does one necessitate or provoke the other? And why might that be true of this particular group of people?
Well, in Richard's case, it certainly does, because he seems very territorial. Even if they're, regardless of the fact, if there was sex or anything else going on, the appearance is that, oh no, they're talking, I must intervene. So controlling would probably be another word I would use there too, for him.
Yeah, Richard was pretty toxic.
I mean, I guess everything in like its super passionate, uncontrolled state.
Mm-hmm.
All three of those are just circle passion. Murder, lust, and love.
This says there were 4th years.
I thought they were in their 3rd, and then they moved to the 4th.
Yeah, they moved to the 4th. They were
Okay.
4th when they did King Lear. Because remember, it was bit parts or stagehands in year 1. Then they were like extras or minor characters in year 2. Then they did their own comedy for the year 3, and then a tragedy for year 4. Was, I think, the progression.
Something that like I thought was really weird, especially when you consider everything that had been said about Oliver, was Oliver with his family.
Mm-hmm.
I thought like there was some aspects where he was talking about his sister and just his family in general, and it just seemed like super insensitive and very selfish, and like very much not how Oliver was being described throughout the whole story, which was really weird for me. Like,
yeah, he was a different person at home with his family than he was with everybody else.
Like, listen, if you lose something, you're going to have feelings about it. So I totally understand that. But the fact that he seemed to give like a single care about the fact that his sister had some kind of eating disorder and that, you know, she needed medical assistance for that, and that could impact his own tuition or his own ability to go back to school. I don't know.
Right.
He'd never had a job before. The fact that they had him start cleaning the castle was new to him.
Yep.
Right.
Sounds to me like an entitled kid who had everything paid for, and then he got mad because his sister got involved.
Okay, but that just doesn't align with like everything that was said about Oliver.
His sister's not his friend.
But I mean, you would think like your family would be closer to you. I don't know. I can't imagine being so upset about something that I would be willing to sacrifice my siblings'
health.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
Like I can understand feeling both. I can understand him super caring about his sister and wanting to do the best for her, but also being upset that like it was going to impact his tuition. But that wasn't expressed at all. Like he was just like, "This is bullshit." Like,
he said, "Why don't we have enough money for both?"
Yeah.
I don't know. So like he just, when he was with his group of friends in school, he seemed like this somewhat naive, very nice, but also very level-headed person. And then as soon as he went home, he regressed to like a child. Like that's
what happens when you go home.
It was weird. It was weird.
Yeah, but like John said, that's the only time he was denied something. So yeah, that's what his reaction was.
That's what it sounded to me. It was just an entitled.
Yeah.
What do you mean I can't have this last semester paid for? It's like, it's my last semester. Why can't she wait another year?
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Wait another half a year.
Yeah.
But no, she needs her.
First time you're told no.
She needs it now.
So that's why, because at school, he never had anything taken away from him. And you can make the case of James, but that didn't occur until much later. And that was his choice to save it.
He still seemed like, I don't remember him having major complaints about cleaning things up. He still took it with
that was
stride,
an assumption I made, kind of.
No, it was more
because I feel like, you know, if Meredith had been asked to do that, I feel like she would have been like, hell no.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like it just would have been a different.
His concern is not having his friends see him doing it. That's his only
right.
thing.
He really
which is fair, because they would have never let him in near the end of it. I'm sure if they did. So.
Well, I realize you guys may not agree with me, but if there was a part 2, I would definitely read it. And
tell me how it is.
And I would definitely read more from this author, whether or not it involved Shakespeare or not.
Considering her background, it might. She has a master's degree in Shakespearean lore.
Yeah.
Wait, where did you learn that? But reading the back of the book? No, I'm just
Wow. You got that one in real time.
I'm just saying, because like I know that a lot of times the audiobooks don't include the author's note or the acknowledgments and stuff like that. So I usually
There was a little
read those.
bit,
Okay.
but not. It was in here too.
Okay.
When you handed me the book, I opened it and read
right,
it.
You usually don't. So I was just wondering.
No, you're right.
No, well, I don't read the book. I don't read the back of the book before I read the book. I might read the back of the book after I read the book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I did because I had mostly. I was about maybe 20 or 30% into it, and it's like, what's this person's background? Sure enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, she did a really good job with kind of, again, like I said earlier, making it palatable. So
yes,
I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. So, ratings time?
Yep, I think so.
I guess I'll go first since you always look at me first.
Okay.
You were about to.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I'm actually going to give it 5 stars because of the writing aspect to it. It was going to be a 4 stars for the story and everything else for me, but they get the extra 5th from me just for the how it was written. I do like the whodunits. There was a lot of minor details that are good callbacks that I enjoy. It's just for me, it was I was upset that I knew who it was from the first scene afterwards, but that was just because I've done a little too much reading into screenplays and
right
and other things too. So.
I think I would also give it 5 stars. I felt like, I don't know, I really felt like I was there with them, and I felt like the world building was just really, really good. And everything felt believable and kept me interested, and I liked that the writing was somewhat lyrical. And I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely check out more of this author's work.
Well, I guess I'm going to rush and judge this one. I'll give it a 3 because I liked it, but it was just like, yeah, it was. I was entertained. I mean, it wasn't, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. But like I said, I read it to the end, and it was like, okay, that was nice. Put it down. So.
And so you said you would not read a part 2, but would you read other works by this author?
Like John suggested, I'm not sure how far we can stray from that formula. Like for example, have you ever read Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell?
Yeah, we read it together.
Already.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, I read it, and then it's like I don't remember who I read it with because I have like a couple of book clubs.
Yeah.
And it's like, she apparently did another historical novel.
Correct.
So,
it just came out recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it?
I don't remember the name of it offhand.
Okay.
Point is, apparently that's her shtick, but it's not the exact same shtick. So, I'm willing to see if if she can come up with something new that's just noticeably different from what she did. So, I'm not adverse to it. I just, show me.
And I think I did share that they are doing some kind of adaptation for this, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if it said it was a show or it was a movie.
I don't recall.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and look in our exclusive Facebook chat because I'm pretty sure that's where I put it.
Yeah, trademark.
So, all right. So, for November, our pick.
My pick, that is.
Your pick is Klaus.
Klaus by Grant Morrison. I'm sorry, writing by Grant Morrison, art by Dan Mora, which is essentially Santa Claus Year 1. That's the way it's described.
The cover looks interesting.
How Santa Claus began.
It's basically a feature film in comic book form. That's the best way I can put it.
Okay.
So we'll be discussing this hopefully sometime soon.
Yes.
In a couple weeks. Let's try to put a rush on this. You want to read it first?
Of course.
Okay. Just checking.
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Give it here.
So, all right. Well, if you guys have hung out thus far, thanks for sticking around. If you, again, didn't read it, then go read it and come back. And one more time, if you ever want to be part of our book club discussions on camera, you can do that by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Libri Labra. And even if you're not ready to become a patron, go over there, go follow so you can leave comments and you can interact and just see what's up. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye, everybody.